In budget crunch, almost every spending request that hits Congress gets only partially filled, unless you're talking about Israel. Now, the U.S. was already sending $3.1 billion in military aid to Israel for 2014, and President Obama requested another $96 million for anti-missile systems. But Congress took that number and tripled it. A separate bill is also pushing the administration for more reviews of whether or not they're giving sufficient aid to Israel. The bill seeks a full review every 2 years. Allison Weir is the executive director of If Americans Knew and joins us from Sacramento. Well, Allison Weir, here we have tripling of the annual aid. I believe, I'm not too sure in terms of exact numbers, in the millions of dollars. Now, what I'm guessing here, if you think this is a possibility, that based on the fallout that appears Israel is having with the U.S. in terms of Iran's nuclear deal, that perhaps the U.S. is trying to soothe Israel, maybe, by giving them additional military aid in the millions of dollars?
That's a possibility. I think it's also that Congress people are very concerned always about the next election, and the Israel lobby is pushing for this money. AIPAC is trying to make sure that it gets passed. Some of this particular legislation has now been reported out of 2 committees, so it hasn't passed the House yet. Some of it did. The second part of what you mentioned did pass. The other part is just reported out of committees, but it probably will pass. And the worst thing of all of this is that Americans aren't even being told about this massive misuse of our tax money. It's not being reported in the American media really at all. Most people are not learning about this. It's not tripling the total amount of aid that goes to Israel, but it's tripling the request that Obama made most recently for subsidizing Israel's weapons systems, which means that whenever we help Israeli weapons companies, we're taking jobs away from American companies. So this is sort of a double blow against the American public, and yet the American media are not reporting it.
So my question to you as Executive Director of Americans Knew is, what if Americans knew?
If Americans knew, we would not go along with this. This is a very tight time for people. The unemployment, the number of people filing for unemployment went up last week. There might be over 1 million people that are now receiving unemployment benefits that will be losing them in the near future because there isn't the money to give them. I truly think that most Americans would not send their money away when there's so much need for it here. And I also think if Americans knew how Israel uses that money, there would even be a double incentive to no longer allow these policies to go forward. But they're pushed by a special interest lobby. It's a very effective lobby, and the media rarely reports on it fully to the American public, so it slips right through. And especially right now with Christmas season, people are very busy. It's an exciting holiday time. People are trying to buy presents, trying to make the money to be able to afford to buy those presents. So it's really always a good time to slip things through without people noticing.
It's a pleasure seeing you. Allison Weir, the Executive Director at If Americans Knew, talking to us from Sacramento. Thank you very much.